So Lara, it's 19 days till the American election. So we're still doing our updates, our review of what's happening. And we're just talking about some of the interesting things that we have been reading, right? And maybe we start with Kamala Harris because I find it very interesting that all of a sudden there are reports about some panic kind of behavior from the camp because her strategy has been a bunker kind of strategy, right? Very much like Joe Biden.
Yeah, very much so. I think she has been somewhat like adopting the same campaign strategy, probably because she sort of like inherited the whole campaign, the team members and things like that. But then it's really, I guess it's like maybe an aura of overconfidence that she will definitely win, given what has happened back in 2020.
Now, it's very interesting. Yesterday, I think Trump was saying that, look, Joe Biden was a much superior candidate than Kamala. And I think he really meant it. It's not like a try to bring down Kamala and things like that. Now, Breitbart chief editor Alex Marlow, this is what he said in an article published today. He said, it's just a fact. She, talking about Kamala, is not great. She's not a good candidate. She was never a good candidate. The Democrat establishment doesn't get this, but the people do. The people have never been excited about her. And then he went on to add that during the primary, remember she was one of the candidates challenging Joe Biden in 2020, she did not get a single primary vote before she dropped out. In fact, the primary started in 2019, right? She didn't even last till the 2020. So, I mean, there are serious... Remember before she was announcing, right, before Joe Biden kind of was forced to resign, there was a lot of talk, right? Could it be Michelle Obama? Could it be Newsom? All candidates which I think will be more formidable for Trump. And this is like, in a way, I mean, from Republican perspective, the ideal candidate because of the contrast, I think. And but yeah, I mean, so the bunker down, the not doing any interview, I think is kind of backfiring. I think we were just seeing some of the states that she must absolutely win. Michigan is now called a toss-up.
Yep.
And so did you feel like... I mean, the only aspect I see a lot of people endorsing her are really the Hollywood, the celebrities, the Anne Hathaway and all these people. It's just like kind of... I don't know what's wrong with them. Are they compromised? Are they... I mean, you look at the entertainment industry, what's wrong with them?
Exactly. I mean, it's just so bizarre that they will actually use like those who are actually outside of the political scene to try to garner some support for her, and especially like talking about, hey, you'll be more attractive if you're voting for like Kamala Harris, for instance. Like because even I think Jennifer Garner was like just coming out and just saying that like men who vote for...
It's just like overall very cringy, right?
Exactly.
But what do you feel about celebrity endorsement? I mean, of course, if any nation would do it, it's America. But it seems to have a reverse effect. And
well, I guess it's nothing new. I mean, we also saw the same thing whereby you have a lot of influencers who are not politically inclined. Suddenly they are coming out with a lot of political contents, just like endorsing certain candidates, and after election things just like bye-bye, that's it. So I think it's also very similar, but I guess because Hollywood has always been more intertwined with mainstream media.
Yep.
So I guess there's that sort of connection which makes it even more unique, I think, what is happening in the United States, whereby they would really, really come out and say, even like George Clooney, he would just be coming out like saying that, hey, you have to vote for this person. And when the lies about the decline mental state of Joe Biden is actually been suddenly released, and then suddenly they were like, oh, we didn't know about this. What do you mean by you didn't know about this? I mean, you must be a super terrible actor or actress that you don't realize all these sort of things. So, I mean, I guess even with what is, I would say it's a flop where like even like Taylor Swift when she's endorsing and then the popularity like just declining. I think, I don't know why they are not like getting it, as in like we don't really want to hear from you, but there is, I guess maybe it's just because they are in bed for too long.
And I think you made the exact right point, which is the media and the celebrities, Hollywood, and celebrities include NBA star like LeBron James, people like that. They are kind of intertwined, and I think they have to behave as one, and they have no other ways because that's how they position themselves for way too long already, and which is very interesting because I think Rasmussen is the one who came out with a poll talking about trust in mainstream media, and I find it very, very interesting. 2024, among likely Republican voters, there's only 12% trust in mainstream media. Even for Democrat, it's not great. It's 55%. Independent, 27%. Overall, I think it is literally like what we used to say, news today, fish wrapped tomorrow. People are treating mainstream media news like just some kind of crap.
That's kind of sad, right? As in, I mean, you talk about true journalism, and yet this is a time where all of us will have to like combat that sort of misinformation, and really just trying to navigate through that whole sort of very deceptive sort of atmospheric.
Now, just one more point about Kamala before we move on. There was some rumor that she wanted to go to Joe Rogan. I believe he will let her, but it's like everything that her campaign has been doing right now is to minimize her exposure to those kind of off-the-cuff kind of discussion, because Rogan's format, is long, is everything and anything. I'm not sure she can handle it.
I'm not sure too.
And I don't think he will allow editing. Because Rogan, one of the thing about Rogan's podcast is no editing. That's one of his
signature.
Yeah, exactly. So you see a lot with Oprah and things like that. She has been editing here and there, and people say that even a town hall, they saw, what was the thing?
Teleprompter.
Yeah. And when the camera kind of showed that, everyone kind of panicked. So I don't know. Do you think she will risk herself to gain to catch up? I mean, if you are her advisor now?
Honestly, if I were her advisor, I would ask her to go all out. But I guess there will be a lot of preparation that is needed. It's almost like burning midnight oil just to try to catch up. Because
you can't teach intuition though in such a short time.
Yeah, so I'm not sure she will be able to handle it, but she will definitely need to do some drastic measure.
Asian style exam cramming. Okay, I think enough about Kamala already. Now there are two things happen on the Trump side which I think really trigger his opponent. So let's start with the first one, right? He was visiting a town called Aurora, and then he announced Operation Aurora. Now, I'm just going to read what he said, okay? And I find it's a kind of like a masterpiece, because sometimes when you want to announce a strong actions, you have to kind of lead people in, right? So he started off by saying, look, this Operation Aurora is aimed to remove criminal network operating in United States. Of course, he went on to give some example, the Venezuelan, the Mexican gang, etc., etc. But then from there, he slowly zoomed into every illegal migrant. And I was just trying to Google, what's the estimated illegal migrants in US, and people are saying anything from 20 to 30 million.
That's crazy.
Estimate. Nobody knows for sure. But anyway, what comes to your mind when he say that? I mean, it's like very controversial, right? I mean, but at the same time, it's logical, right? I mean, if you are packed with illegals in your country, would you not want to bring them back, send them home?
I think he has always demonstrated that consistency throughout the whole campaign, ever since he actually announced his decision to be in this presidential election. So I think because that has always been his passion, literally like securing the border. So I think to him, he has always tried to make America great again. I think that has always been that core. So because of, I guess people's mind are starting to be awakened towards, hey, like there's a lot of, I mean, because you had like, a lot of rape cases, a lot of murder, really because of those illegal crossing. And because of that, I think a lot of Americans are really, really waking up to all this thing. And when he weave it in, it's kind of like that. Really, I think he's really, really doubling down, and that makes him such a great candidate.
And I think one of the things about the migration issue is that nobody really could imagine that in 4 years it could become 5 times, 10 times worse. And people are saying that it's invasion and things like that. Because remember when he wanted to close down the border, when he wanted to make it difficult and things like that, there were a lot of opposition even from Republican. Because don't forget, someone like Rubio, for example, Marco Rubio, used to be an open border guy, but he kind of rehabilitated, and now he was like one of the final pool, right, for VP candidate. So you get that kind of people, and somehow I think that the mainstream media really brainwash people, and by saying that you need to show compassion, this is a country of migrants and things like that. I think we have no argument against that. It's really a nation of migrants, but we're talking about illegal and legal migrant. I'm not sure why people find it so difficult to differentiate.
Actually, I think it's very similar to how the whole homosexual movement was being presented, whereby, you always want to demonstrate. You sanitize your whole message, and hey, let's show compassion first. I think in the same way, they're also trying to garner that sort of sympathy towards the migrants who are coming from a poorer country, and then you begin to like reap all these consequences. So I think it's really time for people to wake up to all this thing.
And he even say he will invoke Alien Enemies Act of 1798. That's like before the union is even close to this size. I mean, there are obscure laws which can be used, and I think it really kind of caused everyone to manifest. But Ben Howell from War Room, one of the correspondents, and he gave a very interesting perspective, because he said, look, this is going to be an issue. I mean, of course, I think it will really happen if Trump wins, and he's going to do that. Then he said it will really separate allies from enemies, and he used a biblical parable, like how the goat is separated from the sheep. And I really believe so, because migration is one of the things that I guess some people who are for migration, which plus illegal migration, is just the high level of self-righteousness. They feel like it's okay to do that. And remember, we had a discussion with a group of young people about migration in Malaysia, and I'm glad to see many people have common sense and say that if you don't have enough for citizens, then it becomes irresponsible for government to take care of aliens over your own citizen.
I mean, that's the exact same issue that is being raised up in Malaysia right now, whereby you see the hospitality that is shown to Palestinian refugees are not being reciprocated. So that's really bizarre. And as in, like, people are thinking that...
And they are giving trouble, right, to the
authority.
authority.
I mean, so I even saw like one Malay that was like really just like, screw this. I mean, let's just have McDonald's and I mean, because he said, look, what I'm doing now, I'm beginning to see that it is actually not trying to advance certain Palestinian cause in the Middle East, and yet it's actually detrimental to the businesses here in Malaysia, whereby a lot of them are actually the same group of people that are trying to support all these sort of causes. So I guess people really do need to have some sort of pain before they can actually get to that point of the self-righteousness will actually be broken down.
And I think it ties back to what we have been discussing, which is the mainstream media control over the narrative. It is just so strong. But the good news is I believe people can get out from it if they begin to get the right source of news, the right perspective and things like that. And which is what we're trying to do in this show, right? And I think if you're here for the first time, maybe you find some of our discussion a bit weird and off the cuff. But I think we just want to encourage people, just begin, explore a little bit, and you will start to see actually there are plenty of common sense still out there. And the third and final issue I want to talk about today, which is another very interesting thing, Trump at Economic Club Chicago, and I saw one of his previous close advisor, Stephen Miller. I think he was doing a tweet. Okay, let me see if I can find the tweet, and he was just saying, I think he was saying something to the effect that Trump's interview at the Economic Club in Chicago was the best masterclass demonstrated by a politician. So it's very interesting. Maybe you can run through a little bit of, I mean, you saw the summary of the clip and things like that, and he was just kind of sparring with the chief editor of Bloomberg, right? So, but it's really, my initial perspective is really, it is him taking on the globalist, the mainstream agenda and things like that. But maybe you can run through some of the interesting points from that.
I think that the thing that really triggered a lot of the people is actually the tariff. Because actually I was listening to one of his, I can't remember which place he was actually doing some rally, and he was really just going through this whole tariff issue, and it was so fascinating because he really, really has that very detailed plan where he was just talking about certain tariffs and again, going back to his main message, the overall theme of making America great again. And he's just saying that there's one condition whereby the tariff will not be imposed and you'll get 100% tax cut is because your
factory is in United States.
So during the first year when you construct this whole thing and you're really going to just get that 100% waiver. So, which I thought, hey, how come we have never had it here before? Because I think it really will cause an economy to blossom. And he really just puts on that sort of business mindset to really just make all these things work. And because of that, I think he was just talking about the Bloomberg editor-in-chief, that he is kind of like anti-tariff sort of person.
Indeed, the guy was, for 25 years, he preached against tariff. So that's why it became personal. So, but Trump was just kind of went back to him and say, you are fake news,
Exactly. And he talked about the allies, their allies, our allies as in United States allies have taken advantage of us more so than our enemies, which is something that you wouldn't hear, let's say, from Kamala Harris' campaign because she's so in bed with, generally, the Democrats have been so in bed with all this George Soros gang and even a World Economic Forum.
Yep.
So they wouldn't, I think in a split second, they will just be like, okay, let's just continue to give more to our allies, quote unquote allies. So really, I think there's that sort of rip-off mentality where he's just putting on and he's just stating the fact, and that's something that we don't really hear it. And he's just said that we have a trade deficit of 300 USD billion with the European Union and our allies of Japan. So he's just talking about basic mathematics, and yet that is something that really, really triggered off the Bloomberg editor-in-chief. And you're talking about Bloomberg, which is where people get news about economy, the trends and things like that. And yet this is someone who, you're talking to an economist, you're talking to someone who is really, really well-versed, and yet he is, I think, something in him just
it shows one of the things, in general, it's just that you do have a lot of economists that are not living in the real world. And just like during COVID time, you have a lot of experts not living in the real world. And the whole notion of expert opinion, I think really degraded during this cycle, from Brexit to COVID, then Trump, all these kind of things. But very interesting, you talk about Trump being very consistent. I was just reading the other day, there's a movie, it's like a hit piece, try to harm Trump, The Apprentice. Yeah, so it wasn't received well because they tried to insinuate a lot of bad behavior. But the script writer of that movie said when he was researching Trump, he found out that Trump already had a very strong feeling about the unfairness that everyone is treating America. And, it's like unfairness in what sense? It's like after World War II, America is the most prosperous, most blessed country in the whole world. Everyone wants to take advantage. And you could say in the early 50s, 60s, America allowed themselves to be taken advantage. But you cannot do that at the expense of the citizens. That's his. So he always had that. And even from year one, Tariff, he was very, very, the war with China and things like that. And I remember in my office, because, here a lot of companies are more China focused. It's a big market, and I remember some of the bosses were saying, "Oh, the trade war will end because everyone still wants cheap stuff. Nobody will buy things if it's manufactured in America and things like that." Well, maybe for here, but I think Trump is not even looking at selling overseas. He's like, even for my own domestic consumption, is enough already. So I don't need to sell to you. If you don't allow me to sell to you, then I don't allow you to sell to me. And interestingly, I found out that this tariff mindset was evident even in the early founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, Jefferson. They all have the same, because it's like, you can almost say the foundation is the American exceptionalism. It's like, you want to do well, you have to work. You cannot expect free things all the time. And that's their spirit. I mean, whether you like it or you hate it, that's their spirit. And I think Trump kind of embodied that. And he one of the key to make America great again is to make sure that our industry is not taken advantage.
I think that's really the beauty of capitalism, whereby you really, because you get rewarded so handsomely because of the hard work that you put in. And a lot of it goes down to the creativity, as in how do you creatively navigate through this whole circumstances where there is that free economy and you are free market, and you are able to just leverage on the resources that you have and just be really creative about it and be innovative about it. I think that's really what we are facing right now. Even ever since COVID, there's a lot of clamping down. I mean, even with that Kita Jaga Kita sort of campaign that has happened in Malaysia, I felt like there was that sort of opportunity where we could actually deviate towards, like going back to a bit more like personal level, where you really just begin to like, hey, I have this, you have that, and we could like just trade instead of like everything going through the radar of the government, where they are just trying to clamp down. I mean, you're talking about why do governments want to clamp down on cryptocurrency? Why do they want to clamp down on like digital banking, or even have certain regulation about digital banking, or even digital coins and things like that? So I think that's where people need to begin to think. I think those who are very well versed in cryptocurrency, I think they put on a different kind of mindset, whereby maybe initially it's just like a form of trading and like getting investment.
But it's really self-determination and the freedom. Actually, you're absolutely right, because when we look at all these issues and what Trump is trying to promote, it's really, it's not the capitalism that we have been seeing from the globalists, which is more control, central bank. And I think there was another part, I think in the same interview with the Bloomberg editor, he was talking about Federal Reserve, and then he's like mocking, like to say, well, Federal Reserve chairperson is the best job in the world. You only need to come to office once a month. And then you're like, should I raise interest? Should I drop interest? And everyone treat you like God. Then the guy is like, but you threatened to sack him, right? Well, yeah, because he was trying to raise interest. It's like everyone was laughing because they know it's true. It's like so ridiculous, right? The whole economy is at the mercy of Federal Reserve. But anyway, I mean, going back to your point, I was just thinking, and I think we can kind of wrap up today with that. Decentralization, that's what we've been saying a lot. But every day you read about Malaysian news is more centralization. And I don't know, I think today they just passed a new infectious disease act in Parliament. Basically, if another COVID comes, they want even more power. I mean, as if they don't have enough power already.
I guess that's what we have been predicting here, that if during 2020, where we had the movement control order and things like that, if PH was in government,
it would have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, which was proven to be
because PN
correct.
is kind of they just want money. But whereas in PH, you get ideologue, you get people who are very much influenced by European Union, by British system. And they all have been, one way or another, very much influenced by the World Economic Forum, globalist, Soros kind of structure.
I guess they are really, really like what we're seeing as what George Orwell has written, where some animals are created more equal than the rest. So I think that is what really that has been demonstrated, the elite sort of mindset, where they think I know better than you. So, but who says so?
Yeah, but the good news I think is everywhere you look, eventually centralization will crumble. I mean, look at China now. The economy is really, really struggling. Of course, everyone kept saying it's recovering, but it's not. It's like so bad, and there is a reason why the last few days crypto is like surging like nobody's business because people wanted option. And I don't want to be able to imagine like China eventually might just say no cash transaction. Everything had to be based on state issue digital currency. That means the government can look at you, hey, Lyra, how much you spent the last month? What did you buy? What did you like? Where did you go?
What did you eat?
It's like a breach of privacy and things like that. But those are the kind of issues. And that's why, today we don't have a specific kind of link back to Malaysia. But I guess is that right? The whole central control versus decentralization. But I think that we're just going to do 2 more episodes. And then after elections, we will try to come back to focus on Malaysia. But I'm still very convinced that if we will take time to study what's happening in America right now, there are a lot for us to learn and to apply.
Exactly.
So I think that's kind of wrap up what we want to do today, short and concise.
Yes, that's fast.
So we shall come back again, and now